Hello, so welcome everybody. Welcome to the EOcafe, 77 EOcafe. Today we're going to talk about Copernicus in Latin America, which is something we have talked about before, but things are moving forward, and particularly the Digital Alliance is being established. So we'll talk about that. First, a quick reminder of the rules of the EOcafe. We're very happy to see you, so please feel free to keep your cameras on, but at the same time, keep your microphone off to avoid extraneous noise unless I ask you specifically to join in the conversation. And if you have any questions, put them into the chat. That way we can see what's coming up, and people can be ready. Also, feel free to put comments in the chat and further information in the chat. It's a useful tool for everyone to follow. But if you put a question there, then normally if we take it, I'll ask you to pose the question yourself. So that's about it. We've had good interest in this EOcafe. DG INTPA is the European Commission's Directorate-General for International Partnerships. They're responsible for formulating the EU's international partnership and development policy. And today we're talking in particular about the Latin American and Caribbean region, the LAC. We strongly support the actions of the EC to help develop relationships and business between European and Latin American companies. As a reminder, some years ago, when the free and open data policy was being designed, we supported the proposals, but asked for countermeasures to use Copernicus as a tool for developing international business with countries outside of Europe as a quid pro quo for access to the European data. It's taken some time, but clearly it is very, very positive that several initiatives have now been introduced, and one of which we're discussing today. So our objective is to shed light on the EU, Latin American and Caribbean Digital Alliance, including the opportunities that will be forthcoming for European companies, existing companies and startups, as well as updates on the work of DG INTPA in the region regarding Copernicus. We last talked with DG INTPA in the EOcafe in November 2022, when Stefano Terabella told us about the work leveraging of Copernicus and links to the Green Deal and the digital agenda. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome Silvia Viceconte, head of the digital sector in DG INTPA, in the division responsible for Latin America and the Caribbean, Mexico, Central America, Caribbean, and the Latin America. Before we start to talk about your work, Silvia, perhaps you'd just like to introduce yourself, say a few words about yourself, your background, and how you are now working in DG INTPA. Welcome.
Thank you, Geoff, and thank you for inviting me here today. Very glad to be having this chat with all of you. So I am the head of the digital sector here in the Latin America Caribbean Directorate of INTPA. We are still a relatively fresh team. The sector was established in September of 2023, so we're not even a year old yet. But I think the creation of this sector witnesses the importance of the digital and space agenda for the Latin America Caribbean region. I am new to the team, but I am also new to INTPA, relatively new. I also joined INTPA in September after 10 years in DG Connect. So dealing with digital policy for the EU. And more specifically, I was working on international aspects of digital policy, dealing with different parts of the hemisphere, mostly North America and Southeast Asia. So let's say this region is a discovery for me. So yeah, I mean, we are a team of 4. We're doing lots of fun things, and I guess I'll tell you more about it in a second.
Great. Just to note, we're also joined by Claudia Pablos, who I think is in your team from DG INTPA, and Jaime Ortega, who is the coordinator in the Copernicus LAC project in Chile. and Jaime or Claudia may be able to add more details as we go along if there are any specific questions. Now, DG INTPA is leading the EU efforts towards Latin America to reinforce political engagement and boost trade and investment. As one tool to achieve this, the EU-LAC Digital Alliance has been established, which creates a strategic framework to foster bi-regional cooperation. And correct me if I'm wrong in anything I say, Silvia. It's working across the full spectrum of digital and space issues, which is, of course, our interest, and under the Global Gateway strategy, which I hope maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the Global Gateway strategy to kick things off.
Thank you, Geoff. So yeah, a few words maybe on Global Gateway, and then more on the alliance. So Global Gateway is the EU's strategy for international partnerships and connection and infrastructure work around the globe. So it goes way beyond both the sector, you know, both space, both digital, and of course beyond the region. We have also it is something relatively novel from I would say the Commission's past policies. It's a clear evolution from the traditional cooperation agenda into a partnership agenda, and also into one in which we want to bring in the private sector and kind of present Europe's effort as a whole, and hence why we often use the word Team Europe to describe the activities we do within Global Gateway. In the region, in Latin America, Caribbean, I mean, we have some major Global Gateway initiatives. Some of them are bilateral, and the Digital Alliance is, on the other hand, a regional initiative. So it is actually the only initiative that we have at European level, whereby we have established a partnership between the EU and 21 countries of the region. It is an informal framework on one hand, but it is something that has been actually subscribed to by the heads of state of all the EU and of these 21 member states. So it's not an international treaty or anything like that, but it is something behind which the heads of state have put their names.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, please carry on. I
thought you wanted to
no. I mean, it's.
No, I mean, maybe I'll just give you a few words on what the alliance is doing.
Going to be my next question. So
yeah.
Yeah.
and then maybe a few words on Copernicus, and then we'll see where Geoff wants to take us. So the alliance is resting on several pillars. It's got a strong connectivity component with Bella, which, for those who don't know, Bella was the first fiber optic cable to connect the European Union continent to the Latin America continent without passing through any other territory. Bella has been extended to several countries in South America, and with the alliance efforts, we're now looking to go beyond that into Central America and possibly the Caribbean. This you will see is also relevant for our Copernicus work, because the consortium, the Red Clara consortium in the region that handles Bella, also does some work with the Copernicus application. Another pillar of the work of the alliance is a policy one, and this is indeed very new. We hold policy dialogues on 5 policy areas, which are artificial intelligence, data governance, digital government, connectivity, and cybersecurity. we've had a kickoff of these policy dialogues last year in Colombia, and we've already had, let's say, 2 dialogues this year. We've had one on cybersecurity, and we've kicked off some of the work on artificial intelligence. And throughout the year, we'll be focusing on the other topics as well. We then have a, let's say, private sector leg, which is our digital accelerator, which is actually what Claudia here is leading on. And this is an instrument that's designed to create matchmaking between European companies and startups in Latin America.
Silvia, your connection is breaking. I don't know if you hear me.
Now I do, but I think we lost the connection for a second.
Yeah. Silvia? Ah, okay. So this is I think this is a first that we've had the guest
disappear. I think I can come back in, Geoff, if you want, while Silvia gets back into the call.
I'm back, I think.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
there we go.
I just got kicked out. So yeah, I was just about to get to Copernicus. So indeed,
right.
a large, the last but not least pillar of what we're doing in the region is our activities in Copernicus. We have launched with the Universidad de Chile work to expand on their existing infrastructure in Chile to regionalize the work that they're doing, concentrating on some challenges, such as, for example, marine observation and land observation. But Jaime might actually be able to tell you much better what they're doing. The other center is in the making. I mean, I think it's fair to say we're trying to get it off the ground. It will be based in Panama. And we are working with the ESA, with the European Space Agency, on that one, and very closely with the Panamanian authorities, because that center will be put up from scratch. And so we've got everything to put there: the infrastructure, the data processing facilities. Everything needs to be put in place, and that center will focus mostly on issues around disaster preparedness and resilience. So in a few words, this is what we're doing.
Okay, but both those centers are designed to serve the whole region. They're not just serving the Chile and Panama, yeah?
Absolutely. That was the whole idea behind the investment that we did in with the Universidad de Chile and Panama, and I think both have this vocation.
Yeah. Okay. And you say sort of a focus from Panama on sort of around natural disasters, emergencies. Is that are the sort of exclusivities, or is it just that's going to be the sort of their main focus and Chile has another focus, or how is that?
I mean, the idea is that these are the main focuses. I think the lists are not necessarily exhaustive, but there are issues of resources. So we're going to kick off with disaster preparedness in Panama. I mean, Chile had already a very long-standing expertise in marine and land. And so, it's only natural to expand those areas. We don't completely exclude that we would look at other uses, but not in the immediate.
Yeah. Okay. Other uses and other regional centers, or is that are the two now sort of determined?
The two are determined.
Yeah.
Two are determined. Yeah. It will be these two.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But only two. That was.
So Claudia is telling me the ones in the Philippines too, but I think Geoff's question was in the region.
Latin America, yeah. We're aware also of the Philippines. No, I was just sort of digging a little bit into the policy surrounding Latin America. Okay. I mean, maybe that's a good point to sort of bring Jaime into the discussion to explain a little bit more about the status and the activity in Chile. But I want to come back to the digital accelerator and talk about and understand what's going on around the digital accelerator. But Jaime, can you maybe just give us a quick introduction to what's going on in the regional center in Chile?
Yes, sure. I have small presentation you want I can share, or you prefer just talk?
For the moment, if you could just sort of tell us what's going on, maybe we can have time for the presentation later.
Yes, as Silvia says, we have two centers in Latin America and Caribbean. This is important. This is to cover also Caribbean. It's not Latin America only. And the main idea is to have some services in common, but also some differences. First one of the main purposes of the both centers is to promote the use of Copernicus. Copernicus is the biggest program, satellite program in the world, and have the good idea to be completely free and completely open. This is firstly the main difference with another programs, because there are several programs from different agencies in the world, but not all are completely free and completely open. This is the first thing. And the other things important, the Copernicus system cover all the world, cover the south of the world. This is important because this is a difference with another project where they not cover completely the world. For that reason, the two centers have the first mission is to promote the use and have a repository of image that the people can download the image from Latin America directly, not necessarily go to Europe. This is important. We have Bella cable now, which helps a lot of, but you gain a lot of time for download the image directly from here. We have in this moment we are in the process to buy the infrastructure. We'll have a storage around 25 petabytes. This means that we will have the complete history of all image of Copernicus for Latin America and Caribbean in our service, and also in Panama, and we will work together in this sense. The second mission is for us. We will have around 100 of virtual machines. The people can use this like a DIA system, that the people can work with this image directly in our computers. They don't need to download the image and work in their computer. This is very good. Okay. This is the two main objectives, and these are quite common with Panama. But we have some differences, as Silvia says. The people, our friends in Panama, we will focus in disaster management. That means the preparedness and what happened after the disaster. They don't work in the disaster because this is another service that Copernicus have in Europe. For our side, we will try to replicate in some sense some services of Copernicus that exist now. Okay, one service is the marine service. The marine service, that means we will have a system for give information about the health of the coast in Latin America and Caribbean. That means what happened with salt, what happened with pH, what happened with temperature, highness, the differences, and the idea is to have a service that give us information to the people about how are the coasts in all Latin America and Caribbean. This is very important because there are some problems, in particular in Caribbean with sargassos or another problem, where this information will be very, very helpful. The other product we are in this moment we are preparing our first land cover and land use for all Latin American Caribbean. Okay, we will launch the first product maybe in July. Okay, there exists the global land cover of Copernicus, but the global land cover, firstly, have some problem with the heterogeneity that has in Latin America and Caribbean. In Latin America and Caribbean, for instance, we have 16 types of claims, different, and for that reason, the vegetation, the biology, and the vegetation, everything is completely different in some sense. And for that reason, we are constructing a new land cover and validated. For that reason, we are talking with all countries in the region in order to get in situ data.
Okay.
And the last one is a urban atlas. We will construct some kind of urban atlas for monitoring the cities, the capital of all countries in Latin America and Caribbean. These three services will be constructing ourselves.
Okay. Thanks for that. I mean, it maybe we'll have further questions on some of the specific products, but I'd like to come back to the Digital Alliance program and the specific tool that I think is being developed under that program for the accelerator, which is perhaps the area. I think even you said, Silvia, that this is the area targeted at businesses and companies and SMEs. So maybe it would be good to understand better what the digital accelerator is and what it can offer for businesses.
Sure. I'm happy to give a few words. I see there's some questions on the chat. Do you want me to take them, or do you want to take them later? Or
no, generally we take the questions later on.
Okay. So the accelerator it's essentially a matchmaking platform. The idea there is to have okay, there's two, let's say it's got two legs in a way. One is, let's say, Latin America, Europe. So there the idea is to match companies in Europe that want to invest in startups in Latin America. And there is a website for the digital accelerator. Claudia may have already put it in, and there you find the information to respond to these two calls. So the call for last year was on smart manufacturing. This year we have a theme on clean tech, which doesn't mean that the smart manufacturing is out. It's just that we open them one by one. And what happens there is that there's a process. I mean, it's not us running it. We have a consortium led by Tecnalia, a Spanish company. They run it, and they look to create these matches. When there is a match that seems mature and that is eligible for what is our contribution, then we come in with a financing of 30,000 euro. And that financing, however, is in accelerating services. So it's services that these two actors get in order to achieve a joint venture. The Caribbean is slightly different because, I mean, we were aware of the difficulties for Caribbean companies. And so for Caribbean companies, it's not only matchmaking with European companies, but they can also match to Latin America companies. But the mechanism in the end is the same. That's a little bit how it goes. Oh, I see there is someone from Tecnalia online. So that's great. I don't know, Claudia, if you want to add something else on the accelerator, given that you're leading on it and as you're here with us. Claudia's camera's not working, but
Yes, exactly. Sorry that you cannot see my face, but for sure, I would like to add that this is a 40 million project 9 million correspond to the Latin America, South America, and Central America region, and 5 million only for the Caribbean. As Silvia was explaining, the Technalia and the Accelerator takes into consideration the additional hurdles that the Caribbean countries face. So that's why they have 5 million allocated just to them. As she mentioned, the challenges that the corporations can submit in the platform for the 2 years that the accelerator has been in place are smart production and clean tech. Clean tech including everything related to circular economy, renewable energies, waste management, but more challenges, more cultural challenges will follow. There will be an upcoming one on health in the next year. But the good thing about these challenges is that they're ongoing, they're open into 2027. So if one of your companies here present has a challenge on smart production and not so much on health, given the EO industry, then you can also submit your challenge there. The good thing about the platform is that it's open for everyone. So I shared the link there to the platform, so you can already go and register yourself. If you're a company, you can look at what other companies submitted as their challenge. And if you're a startup that works in the EO industry and you would like to provide with a digital solution to one of those companies, you can already kind of gossip around and see what the needs of the companies are. And if you think your startup can provide a matching solution, you can always be in contact with the companies. They have all the information there, so you can schedule meetings or calls with the companies that are already registered in the platform. So as Silvia mentioned, it's a matchmaking platform, which is great and which aims at enhancing these innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystems between both regions. So for sure, one last thing is that if you're a company based in Europe, of course, you should be looking for a startup based in Latin America or the Caribbean, or vice versa.
And so the 30K is the funding for each successful application.
Yeah.
And that goes to the Latin American end of the partnership for creating or developing the project.
Not really. Yeah. The money is there for acceleration services. So it's there to help a potential match come to fruition as a joint venture. It's not there to actually fund a project.
Right.
So it's really for the matchmaking.
So it's necessary to create a joint venture.
Yes. I mean, the structure, I don't think it legally needs to be a joint venture, but that's the idea. And the 30,000 are to help to accompany these matches towards kind of a partnership of sorts.
Yeah. Okay. And just to be absolutely clear, you say that the smart manufacturing was open last year, but that stays open until the end of the program. 2027 is what is the last date for releasing funding, or is that the deadline for proposal?
Well, we will close in 2027. I mean, there may be still some funding going out, but we will close.
Yeah.
So that is a cutoff date. All calls stay open.
Okay.
So we just add new calls. We don't actually close any calls.
Yeah. Okay. And it's too early to say what will happen beyond 2027. I'm sure. Are there any existing projects which have been established using? Sorry, I used the word project. You said it's not project; it's the joint venture. Is there anything already running in the
No, no, because on one hand they haven't started that long ago, so the whole thing got up and running sometime in the summer.
Yeah.
We understand that there are some matches, but once, let's say, the two companies like each other, then their discussions go into become confidential. So we are not a party to what they may discuss on what kind of agreement. So we don't have anything yet concretely, but we understand from our partners that there have been some likes between companies that have started discussions.
Okay. And
if
so,
I can complement, sorry that I'm interrupting.
yeah, okay.
I was in a call with technologists this morning, so they informed me that there have been 5 partnerships created. Not created, but that at least 5 corporations are already in discussions with 5 startups, and they're about to sign their letter of interest to keep working together and apply together to those 30K. So at least we know that 5 partnerships or joint ventures are already in work to collaborate together.
Okay. What are the criteria to respect for a successful partnership, successful proposal? I guess we can't guarantee the partnership, but
I can share the guidelines in the chat now. I have to look for them, but there are not many. Basically, that it has to be a partnership between a startup and a corporation. That's one. The second one is the geographical component that Silvia referred to. So one has to be from Europe and the other one has to be from Latin America, with exception of the Caribbean that can match up with a company from Europe or a company from South America. And then the third one is that both sides of the coin, so the startup and the corporation, are both interested in developing this digital solution together, and that they sign this letter of interest that I was just mentioning.
okay.
But let me look at the guidelines, and I will put them in the chat for anyone who's interested.
And what in your terms constitutes a startup?
It can either be a startup or an SME. It's any sort of small company that works in the innovation sector, so or in the digital sector, because this is the digital accelerator. So of course they have to be working in this domain.
So it's an SME rather than necessarily a startup.
It can be both, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So and SME in the classical definition of an SME, I presume.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you say 5 are about to be signed. I guess, are you able to give us a concrete example from one of those to explain what the relationship is, or is that not possible at this stage?
They are implementing plan is still evaluating the application, so it's still the very early stage. I know that the first partnership was from a company from El Salvador that work in the field of agriculture, so that had some sort of agri-food company. And pair up with a Spanish startup, but I don't recall what exactly the solution that they aim at was.
No, okay, that's fair enough. But it's coming under the smart manufacturing line. So that sounds that's quite a broad definition of smart manufacturing.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, the idea is that we kept it as broad as possible, so it would cover as many sectors as possible, including the primary sector, so agri-food and fisheries, but also the secondary sector, so everything related to the industry.
So acting down the value chain. I mean, I can imagine that's of interest to companies in the EO services sector. There's quite some possibilities there, I think.
Geoff, maybe one other thing which could be of interest in an action that will complement the accelerator actually is that we're planning to attach to the Panama Center a business incubator for small companies in the area, and this is something very much in the making, because it will depend a lot on financing also from Panama. But the idea is that ESA, who is obviously the big European partner there, would be able to support companies in the region through their contacts and proposing some sort of incubating structure for this incubator. As I said, a lot of it is in the making and a lot of it will be in the hands of Panama, but that is also something I think worth mentioning for your community.
Okay, so this would be similar to the incubators that ESA have established in other countries. I presume it would be if they're involved in that.
They're involved, but there will be no direct financing. Huh?
Okay.
So that's not the plan.
Yeah, okay, but it's about enabling.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other elements under the Digital Alliance that perhaps companies listening to this should be aware of?
Well, I mean, we have a vast bilateral cooperation in the region. So, you know, the Digital Alliance is operated from Brussels, let's say, and it's, as I said, it's regional. It's with 21 countries, but the EU has bilateral investments, including in space, in Earth observation.
Yeah.
In these countries. We have actually just setting up a technical assistance in Bolivia to help them again with mostly with accessing and reading and being able to use the Copernicus services. So there is that as well. We are looking in, I mean, we've received requests from the Dominican Republic, especially linked to the use of Copernicus to determine the trajectories of the sargassum algae in the sea. So these bilateral projects, which are financed by the EU or co-financed together with our partner countries, fall within the wider philosophy and umbrella of the Digital Alliance partnership, but they are separate, let's say. Yeah.
Okay, but in that sense, are they funded through Horizon or as a funding channel?
Most would not be funded via Horizon. They would actually be funded by the budget that our delegations in these countries have.
Okay. I mean that certainly could be interesting, and initiative. I mean that was going on to because we talked about Chile and Panama as being the sort of the hubs, but other countries were certainly interested in developing specific applications tailored to their own particular needs or adapting applications to their needs. So to have the means to finance partnerships in those areas as well would be very interesting, or more in projects to develop the product or service.
Yeah, in that sense, I mean, the first port of call is our delegation, so it's our offices on the ground and
in country.
Yeah, in the country, yeah. And then they would come to us saying, look, I don't know, indeed, Bolivia has an interest in this, and what can we do, and what can we do to help? It was the same thing with the Dominican Republic. Oh, look, we have access to the Copernicus data, but you know, we need training in how to read it. What can you do for us?
Yeah, okay. So for anybody interested, then they should be working to contact the in-country representatives and trying to establish a project through their with their support. Yeah, okay. That can be yeah, I was going to say it's a complex process, but I guess it's made a lot easier with tools like the ones we're using now, as remote communication tools. Okay. I noticed Wolfhard had some questions. I think they've possibly even been answered, but Wolfhard, do you want to? You were talking somewhere about preparing a proposal. So maybe you have some specific questions around that.
Yes, it's actually, I cannot at this point, and I hope you understand this, I cannot release the team that we are forming currently publicly on records here, but I can say that much as we are currently creating a team between European companies, both SMEs and major aerospace players, or one major aerospace player at the moment, and Mexican partners to launch a larger project in Mexico. What I can say about it, it's about urban development, sustainability in the urban environment. It's about infrastructure, and it's about sustainable agriculture. We will start with the urban part because this is the most pressing issue down there. The question is, let me say the one question that has not really been answered, and thank you for already telling me about the bilateral projects that are underway. Is there the possibility, or is it foreseen under the Digital Alliance, under the Copernicus partnership with Latin American and Caribbean countries, to have, let's say, should I call them ideas sessions? Or idea calls where you can unsolicitedly, like we had in other Copernicus areas and also launched by ESA, where you can basically have an idea challenge to cover subjects that are pressing issues in the region that can be covered by Copernicus activities at the moment, where both sides would benefit, and that would also tie the relationship between Europe and this region more closely.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was muted. I'm not muted. No, thank you for the question. I think there's two answers to that. On one hand, I mean, in the creation of the centers itself, can you come forward with a project? No, not really, because the money here is allocated to building the Panama Center and to enlarging the Chile Center, and that's one thing. Will you be able to come up with something in a specific country on Earth observation and then come to us for some financing? Possibly, if you do it in partnership with the country. And there I would really send you to our, to our delegations. I mean, you could come to us, of course, and we can put you in touch. But this is something that is run by the delegations, and to be, very candid, they're holding most of the money in general. So so that is something that we could look at. Then there's the issue of the business incubator in Panama, and there we a lot of it in the end will be up to ESA, but as Geoff said, it's mostly about enabling than other. I mean, the other thing we will do, and this is part of what ESA is organizing, we will hold an EU-LAC space policy dialogue, but probably at the beginning of next year. And there we're going to go beyond governments, and we would invite partners, interested partners, and this could be an occasion eventually to look at further developments, or can we do something else?
I didn't quite understand. Was that Latin America broad or country specific?
So the projects, I mean, if the question is, can we go to one of these Copernicus centers and launch a project not within the scope of what we are doing? Mm-hmm. If the question is, I want to do something, I've got a great idea in Ecuador and for Earth observation, then I would say that is something that our delegation in Ecuador could have a look at. That would fall
so to be more Okay, so to reiterate just quickly, it would mean that what we currently have underway here would fall under more on a bilateral under bilateral agreements and bilateral cooperation than under the Digital Alliance that you just introduced. And let me just add to it why we're so keen on it and why. Thank you for all the information that you provided. This was really a key EOcafe for what we are doing right now here. The reason is twofold. It's political as well as it is an opportunity for European for the European space and Earth observation sector. And the timing couldn't be better because we have the action coming up in Mexico, according to my sources who are in contact with the current president's office. One of the two candidates that looks very likely to be the new president, she has aerospace, or especially space, very high on her agenda. She is apparently very keen on collaborating with European countries, with the European Union, but also with European companies. Yes, it could mean that also European SMEs could learn from this cooperation. Like, for instance, how do I apply Copernicus service-related technologies and services in semi-arid regions, in tropical countries. We have everything in that region, so they could immediately learn from that and then apply this elsewhere in the world. So this could be a win-win situation out of joint venture, and the timing couldn't be better.
Sounds good, Wolfhard. Stefan Urovic wanted to come in and make a comment. Stefan.
Yes, good afternoon. I will be wearing two different hats successively. The first one is supervisor of the EU Space Support Office, which replaced the Copernicus Support Office last September, and touch upon two questions that were raised. One of them by Estelle Rodriguez, asking whether there were trainings on data access, especially in Spanish. In fact, they don't even know, but we're going to propose to our colleagues from the Copernicus data space ecosystem to organize some specific trainings. We even have volunteers in Universidad Mayor in Chile to become kind of a small center of excellence and to help a Spanish-speaking Latin American with the right time zone, obviously, to learn how to use all the potential of the CDSE, which enables to process the entire catalog of Sentinel data in the cloud. And in fact, you still, some of the computing power above a certain limit you have to pay for. So that thus the interest of having data centers in the country. But part of the problem of data access is solved. So we'll be doing something. Stay tuned as as EU Space Support Office with the Copernicus Academy, which we coordinate and animate. The second thing is about Wolfhard's idea of doing what ideatons. In fact, we are collaborating with Red Clara and organizing Copernicus ideatons. And if you wish, we will put you in contact with our colleagues of Red Clara, who are very keen. In fact, they are doing an immense job to support the uptake of Copernicus in science in general in the regions. So that was my comment as a EU Space Support Office. And as part of the contractor team that has received a contract from ESA to develop stakeholder knowledge in Panama, to let you know that we now have 2 permanent liaison officers in Panama and can obviously help the industry. We're doing a mapping exercise of the needs and opportunities in Earth observation in general, and Copernicus in particular, in the entire LAC region. So that's another piece of information potentially useful to members. We are organizing a series of trainings that we've put significant amounts of budget into even co-funding or participating to the funding of the travel of the trainees when it's physical, because we know it's an issue very often in the region. And last but not least, we have an entire program of hackathons, of matchmaking. And to answer the questions about, it's not going to be an ISABIC or a similar kind of thing. We have as a mission, as a task, contractual task, to advise the Panamanian government on the setup, what could be the ideal setup of Copernicus incubator in the country. But it would be, in my understanding, a Panamanian endeavor, which advised by delegation of DG INTPA through contractors paid by ESA. But that's basically the scheme.
How do you want people to contact you, Stefan?
They can write to the support office. The old address, support@copernicus.eu, still works. Otherwise, there's one that is on the website of Copernicus now, and I guess also on the website of DG DEFIS, which is, I think, support@euspace-program.eu. Not an easy one, but that's the only one available. Or through EARSC, you can share or I can put I'll put the address in the chat in a while. So EARSC and the industry will be invited to participate in the matchmakings. There is limited funding available to support a few travel of smaller SMEs, startups, etc. And the last point is there's also very, very important activity being funded by DG INTPA under regional or bilateral things. The interest, you can imagine, and it links to our last EOcafe about the EU deforestation regulation. There's a massive interest in the use of Copernicus and Galileo to support the certification of exports of commodities covered by the regulation. There's currently in Central America a cluster, an AFOLU cluster, AFOLU standing for agriculture, forestry, and other land uses, in order to see what we can do to support these countries in being ready for the deadline to have certified products under EUDR. And it's a very big opportunity in general for the industry. Because there's a private offering, obviously a commercial offering for such activities.
Very, very, very interesting. Yeah, pop any links into the chat if you can, or if somebody can, so people can pick up and contact you directly. Great. This is a little bit of a sideways, but is there what's the sort of the governance of the alliance? Is there a sort of a forum where the the progress is discussed and new initiatives are discussed? How does it actually work?
So I think we need to distinguish a little bit the programs and the projects under the Digital Alliance, which have a governance of their own. So for actually, I am now with you, but at the same time, in parallel, there's a steering committee on Copernicus Panama going on that my colleagues are on. So that follows, I would say, usual commission procedure.
Well, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure, really my pleasure. The other thing is what the Digital Alliance represents as a sort of political policy forum for the two regions, for the EU and LAC. And there we don't have strictly a governance per se. What the way we are doing it when it comes to policy is that we've asked, when we had our kickoff discussions in Cartagena in Colombia in November, we looked for co-leads. And we looked for countries in the region that were willing to work with us to kind of pull everybody else along. And so for every topic, we're working very closely with co-leads. I mean, for example, for cybersecurity, we have Costa Rica and the Dominican Republic, and actually Chile is also very active. So that's what we're doing. It's very fluid in a way, in the same way that the alliance itself is not, it's not an international treaty-based type of organization. Recently, we 20 countries originally signed the alliance, and then in November, after our meeting in Cartagena, Belize said, "Oh, we absolutely want to join," and they sent a letter. And well, I mean, there were a few steps that had to take place in the council, but now we have 21 members, so it's rather loose in that sense. It's rather informal.
It's loose, but endorsed from national leaders, from what you said.
Yes, absolutely. In July, there was an EU Latin America Caribbean summit in Brussels, a summit that hadn't taken place for many years. And the alliance, which had already been launched earlier in the spring, took indeed this more solemn form when the heads of state adopted a joint declaration. And there you really have the backing of the leaders to this cooperation.
Okay. And that will then be the mechanism for any political decisions around it that take place in the future.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're also going to have, I mean, the date of the next summit is already set. It's going to take place in 2025 in Colombia. And so we have now a date, and we need to show up at this date saying, this is what the alliance has done. This is where, you know, this is what we could show for these 2 years of working together. So, you know, we're very kind of deliverable oriented. We know we've got to get there with something to show for.
Okay. Well, I hope that this will help stimulate significant interest from the EO services sector to establish partnerships and joint ventures in the region. I'm certainly there are a number of companies that already are working in the region, and this seems like a good opportunity to take that further and to extend it. So I hope that really stimulates people. Okay, I think we're sort of coming to the end of the time we have. I don't think I've missed any questions in the chat. I hope I haven't. Stefan's put his links in there. So anybody wishing to contact Stefan to talk about the opportunities that are to engage in that way. Are there any more sort of what's the word? But delegation visits planned? We've supported in the past visits to Colombia, to Bolivia, to Panama, etc. Chile, of course.
That's a good question. The answer is yes, there are, but I don't know them off the top of my head. But I think we have something coming in late spring. And we're actually always looking for European companies to come with us.
Yeah.
So what I suggest, if anybody wants to reach out, they can reach out to Claudia or myself, I mean, to my team. And we will, we'll be able to have a closer look. But yes, the short answer is yes, but I don't know exactly where. I mean, we usually group. What we're doing now is doing like 2-3 countries at once.
Yeah. Well, keep us posted. You know, again, EARSC has supported that in the past and will certainly support in the future, and hopefully, to bring a number of European companies along to present the capabilities and to develop that engagement. I think it's a very strong way or a necessary way to work. We've got to our hour, so I guess we should close the EOcafe off. What we normally do at this stage is to not so much close as to close off the recording and open up a free chat if anyone wishes to join in without recording. But before we do that, Silvia, thank you very much for your participation. I really hope that this will stimulate a wave of contacts for you, and to see some new links being established. That would be really great. I don't know if you have anything you want to say to finish off.
No, I think I'd like to echo that. We'd be delighted to have European companies with us. I mean, one of the philosophy behind Global Gateway is to go together with the private sector to in our international outreach and our investments. So, you know, our door is completely open in that sense. I think I had seen Claudia's hand up.
Yes.
So maybe she might want to say a few words. I just wanted to thank you all for having me here. It's been great. It's been great chatting to you. So, and
thank you for being with us. Claudia, you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment Silvia's comment by saying that the D4D Hub, the Digital for Development Hub, has a working group for the private sector. That is for digital private sector organizations or companies that are based in Europe or Latin America that are interested in being informed about the alliance and being consulted when there's a dialogue, or keeping involved keeping involved and aware to support the these digital partnerships between both regions. So I would strongly recommend all of you to check the D4D Hub website, and there you can find all the information about this private sector advisory group that I would recommend all of you join if you're not aware of it
Okay,
yet.
if you haven't already, can you perhaps just put that into the chat before we finish?
Yes.
That would be great. Thank you. Close off this cafe. As I say, if anyone wants to come in, they're very welcome. Just to say that the next EOcafe in 2 weeks' time is looking at support for the financial services sector, links between EO services and financial services. So this is this is a project under the ESA best practices line of work, which we've talked about in the past, and there've been a number of examples. It will be a first, because I shall not be able to present this EOcafe, as I shall be traveling. So you will have 1 or 2 or 3 new hosts who will take you through this call and the discussion, with Raman principally from GMV, but also Jorge and Tom from the project team. So again, interesting to learn what can be done with the financial services sector, and that will be in 2 weeks' time, as usual, at 4 o'clock.